Hello, I'm Beth the Builder, and what are we doing on my stairwell here? Again. Well, let me tell you. Okay, so recently I rearranged my living room after I finished painting trim in here, which I did finish, by the way, I think. I'm pretty sure. And I was sitting on my couch facing my stairwell, because now my couch is right here instead of over there. And I was sitting there and I was looking at this railing and this piece of trim right here. So this is just like a 1x4 or something. It's pretty narrow and it's obviously not a piece of trim because you can tell the difference between actual trim and just random pieces of wood that people have tacked onto their homes. There's a pretty big difference. So I was sitting there looking at it and I was like, man, why does that look so weird? Why does this trim just run right up into the crown molding and end like with a flat top that you can see it because there's a shadow on the top of it that will like cast against the crown molding. All the crown molding's in really good shape. It's obviously been done like relatively speaking professionally. It looks really good, but this just looks out of place and weird. So I was thinking about it. I was like, why is it like that? And I was looking at it and I'm pretty sure this isn't the original format for my stairs. So my stairs go this way. They used to go the opposite way from this closet. And you can tell because lots of reasons. You can tell in the closet with how the plaster is over the lathe. And you can also tell because there's a line on this wall up here when you're going up the stairs of the opposite angle where they re-plastered over it when they changed the direction of the stairs. But then they had to deal with these lathe and plaster walls. So they put a wider board right here, which is fine. They hammered the heck out of it, so boy does it look like garbage, but whatever. And then I'm assuming to hide the seam between this and this board, I'll show you, they put this piece of wood here. Railings, usually they just run into the wall, and then there might be like a decorative oval piece that the railing would go into, or if you did a half post like this, it would just be against the wall. It wouldn't just run all the way up into the crown molding. So I'm going to hack this off because I think that's just gonna make more sense. And if I had a multi-oscillating tool, that's what I would use. That would be the perfect tool for this job. I don't have one of those. So I'm gonna use my back saw to try and get a really, really good cut. And I'm going to put something protective against the plaster in case I nick it with my saw. So let me show you kind of what I'm talking about. So you can see this is, I mean, maybe my finger's width. And then this is a wider, thicker board. And you can see on the back side here that this is plaster still, but this is just all been left like scabby and horrible looking. It should have been filled in, or at least, but anyway, so this board then runs up against this guy and you can see where I've kind of started to pry it open because I wanted to see what it looks like kind of back there and I could just barely see. So it's pretty weird, you know, and then you can see up here that it just runs right up into that crown molding. And that's just really not how it should be. So now definitely the stuff that I noticed in my house is much different than what I noticed 3 years ago because when we first moved in, I was stressed from moving. I hate moving. And I was just excited to have our own space. And I wasn't really focused on like little details like this. I was like, as long as our house isn't full of water and there's no fires and we have heat and we have running water, I'm pretty friggin' happy. My list of things that I needed and wanted was so low. But yeah, it's just kind of an odd thing. I think it kind of breaks up the crown molding a little bit oddly versus just being like a smooth wall corner transition. So yeah, I'm gonna draw a good old straight line on here and then we'll get to sawing this off and I'll like smooth it out. We'll get some joint compound anywhere that we need it or filler or whatever. So that's what we're gonna do. Gonna chop this off. We'll see what we're working with and go from there. So I kind of get why they maybe covered this, because if you're uncertain how to go about filling this big of a gap, maybe covering it is just like, that's what you do. It's weird because they didn't cover the other side of the wall, so but I have some wood filler. I think I'm gonna use that to fill the actual gap on both sides, and then I have some joint compound because it's a joint of sorts, and I have it. Feel like it's gonna work out. Maybe like spackle would be the thing to have for this. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it'll work out and I think it'll look a lot better. Maybe some tape, you know, joint tape would be the thing you'd need right here, but it's odd because it's plaster, so like, do you treat that just like drywall? What do you do in that scenario? I'm not sure. And I'm gonna go with my instinct of using similar type things because, well, that's what I'm going with, I guess. So if I'm wrong, I guess let me know. If there's something that's more specific to plaster walls that you would want to use, I'm definitely willing to, like, you know, learn, because I'm not sure exactly. But this is what I'm going to do. I think it'll end up being much better. In some places, there's a little bit of a discrepancy between this and then the wood. So we're going to do our best to kind of fill that all in and see how it looks and how it goes. We'll paint it afterwards and it'll look like so good. It's amazing. Well done. Good job, Beth. Future Beth.
You won't understand it all alone, that's okay. People I can't stand them, they don't want me to change, keep me where I'm standing. And I don't wanna be where I am, and I want something more, take a chance. It could be possibly my last dance, my last dance. And I don't wanna let myself down myself.
Alrighty, so look at here. Sanded the heck out of it, and I did a funny makeshift kind of dust collector thing with my sander because I didn't want to fill my living room full of dust from wood filler and joint compound, because it literally says on the container, like, you know, skin irritant, warning. So I used my vacuum as I sanded to kind of help cut down on the dust. It also says to like wet sand it, so I tried to spray it down at different points to kind of keep the dust to a minimum. I got to use my fancy new ventilator while I was sanding, which was super useful. I am really, really happy to have it. Overall, I think what I'm gonna do moving forward, even though I did paint this, but it's not filled perfectly because I ran out of wood filler, my wood putty, that Durham's wood putty, I ran out of that. So I was kind of forced to use more of the joint compound than maybe I would have necessarily wanted. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some joint tape to really smooth this seam out, and then put the joint compound on and then paint it again, which shouldn't be that big of a deal. I painted it just to mostly just be able to see, because it's really hard to tell what's gonna show up when it's all like multicolored and dusty and like, it's just hard to know what exactly it looks like. So I painted it, and overall I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's definitely better than what was here. I like it. I think it looks good. I also filled the other side, but that's still wet. I had to fill it some more. And this wall, I haven't painted anything in our stairwell, so I'm not worried about that. Definitely, you know, not a big deal, any of this, but I think it makes more sense to just have this capped here. So, I mean, yeah, what a simple, stupid fix for something that looks a little bit silly. And, you know, here, I'll show you the top up there. Doesn't it just make more sense to just have the like crown molding just be clean and, you know, not have a weird piece of wood run into it? You can really see the discrepancy right there at the top. But I mean, that's just the way it goes with old houses, you know? But I think joint tape is really gonna help fill that in. That's what it's, you know, it's for seams, joints. So, but this wasn't super hard, and maybe spackle would be the thing for the job. Maybe I just should have gone and gotten more wood filler and used that, because that does dry really, really well, more quickly than joint compound. And I've used it for big old cracks and it does really well. So, and that stuff is like cheap as hell. So maybe that's what I should have gone and done. And I can, you know, guess what? Trying's free. And, you know, it's not the end of the world. You can fix this, okay? Oh no, I filled that hole with the wrong thing. Who the fuck cares? Fill it again, sand it down. No one's the wiser. Don't worry about it. This is a pretty simple fix. I mean, like if it wasn't for having to wait for the joint compound to dry for 24 hours, it would have been a lot faster because chopping that wood piece off was like so easy. I literally got my respirator like just in the nick of time to deal with that joint compound stuff, or even the wood filler can be really irritating to my like nose and eyes and skin and stuff. So definitely got that like just in the nick of time, which is really, really nice to have and not have to like think about that stuff too much. And then using my vacuum along with my sander is a little bit silly, but it totally works. And I don't care that much about that vacuum. I have 3 vacuums, so it's okay. It's not like on purpose that I have 3 vacuums, I just do. But doing something like that is kind of a workaround of having like a big old fancy like shop vac connected to a sander, all that whole thing set up, which I would love to have because I hate sanding and dealing with the dust and everything of it. And then it literally says on the joint compound to sand it wet or damp. So I sprayed it down a couple times, which is harder on my sander. It's harder on sandpaper if you don't have like wet, damp sandpaper like for that, but that's the way it goes. You use what you got. So go get a respirator. Don't mess around with that stuff. I should have gotten one years ago, but when it's not winter out and -13, I sand outside, which is also the way to go. Alrighty, so go mess around with your own trim and fill holes in your house and fix weird things. You know, even if you don't have maybe the perfect exact thing to do it with, you can get pretty far and you can always come back to it later and be like, oh, I'm gonna make that thing better or fix that or whatever. So give me a like, subscribe, check all the places in the description below where you can find more of me and follow me and support me, etc. Otherwise, I'll have a new video out next week, and thanks for watching.